Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the technique Repeating Mace and how to relate it to other techniques in the American Kenpo system. So keep in mind two things. First, this is not a comprehensive list, and second, it's not family grouping. The better way to think about it is that it's just different avenues that you can explore so that you can uncover some of the information in American Kenpo. So let's start out through two elements of this technique. The first element being we're going to allow this weapon to pass safely by us. And the second is that repeating motion. Okay, that gives us our name and general strategy. So if you'll notice, we're on the zone of action on the outside of the right. So let's go to a completely different zone of action. In this case, we're going to do it on the inside of the right low instead of high. So we're going to come from a kick. But before he throws the kick, let's talk about one of the things that's happening here. The intellectual piece of this, meaning point of origin. So in this case, what is a natural reaction to something? So in this case, as he throws the kick, comes from point of origin, and it does it in a defensive manner rather than like we did here, in an offensive manner. Okay? But notice the repeat. Instead of doing it with our hands, we're doing it with our foot and then our hand to the low and high zone rather than to the middle zone. Okay? So now that we've done it on the low zone, on the inside of the right, let's move it to the inside of the right on the high zone. So notice the difference here. We're going to allow it to pass by, but we're going to do it through stepping forward and pinning rather than just moving it out of the way. But again, notice we're coming from an intellectual position, coming low to high to do the hit. And when we do that, repeat. Okay? So now that we've done that, let's go to the inside of the left. Okay, so if we normally talk about this, we're in that zone of action on the outside of the left. What happens if we're on the inside of the left or straight on that left? That brings us something like a snap and twig, where we can do it just like we do the reversing or repeating mace, or we have the repeat here on the inside. Okay, so let's now move this to the outside of the right. This would bring in something like a leap of death. If you'll notice, it's the same thing. Now, instead of hitting to the kidney, we're hitting to the arm, but then we're doing the same thing and then the takedown. So if we were to do this on a repeating mace version, we could do the exact same thing with that option we talked about earlier. But guess what? We can do repeating mace into leap of death now, and you're doing it on your strong side rather than your weak side. So now that we've done that, let's talk about a different option that we can do here. That would be off of a direct push, but now we're going to come straight at it. And that brings something like a circling destruction. We get to hit, and then we get to repeat or here. Now let's take that through a grabbing version of the same thing, and then upside down. Another way to think about it is upside down version of triggered salute or repeating mace, where we're actually going low first and then doing that repeat. Okay, let's do another one final one with the zone of action, and that would be between the hands, where they're actually coming at us, and we're going to do something like a blind and sacrifice, where we could say, pass by, and then we could go 1, 2, or we could consider it 1, 2 for our repeat. Okay, so let's bring in one more little quick thing, and that is ready versus non-ready. If you look at it, repeating mace versus reversing mace, the major difference between the two, they're the same technique, but the only difference is I'm in a ready position rather than a non-ready position, so when the person punches, I can use a different concept, in this case up the circle, before I do that reversing. So how did we go about relating repeating mace to other techniques? Was through allowing that weapon to pass by safely and then doing the repeat of the two hits. Hope this video helps you understand the American Kenpo system just a little bit better. Thank you very much.